All right, before we start today, I want to quickly go through these 6 kind of vocabulary words, make sure we know what they are, and then we're going to do 2 problems finding all things. So let's start with the vertex. The vertex of the parabola is the highest or lowest point on the graph. So I'll say highest or lowest point on graph. Now, to find it, to find your x-coordinate, we do negative b over 2a. To find the y-coordinate, we plug in. And again, I'm going to show you how to do this here in just a second. Let me scoot this over a little bit. All right, so again, it's the highest and lowest point on the graph. Let's kind of scoot down to the bottom. So your maximum is this highest point. But it is the y-coordinate. Because remember, the height of your graph is the y-coordinate. The minimum, which is the lowest point, that is also your y-coordinate. So after you find the vertex, you should be able to tell me if you have a min or a max and what your min or max is, because it's going to be this y-coordinate right here. Your axis of symmetry is where it cuts the parabola in half, okay? So let's see, if I drew a parabola, here's my parabola, and this right here is your axis of symmetry. Okay, it's the line that will cut that parabola in half, and it is your x-coordinate of, guess what? Your vertex. So it's super important when you find that vertex, it's like you kind of know things. X-intercept, it's where the graph touches the x-axis. So touches x-axis. And normally we're either going to factor, we're going to find the zeros. So we're going to factor all the things that you learned. Factoring, quadratic formula, solving by square roots, things like that. Okay, so the y-intercept is where your graph touches the y-axis. Okay, and for that, so for here, let's go up here. We're going to factor or probably quadratic formula. That's probably what you guys are going to do, okay? For here, if you plug in 0 for x, then you can find your y, because we know how to find the y-intercept. Plus, I'm going to show you kind of a cool way to do the y-intercept also down here once we look at our pictures. Okay, so again, just wanted to go through those 6, make sure you kind of understand what's up there. Now let's do the problems. Now, first thing, you can do your vertex first. You can do whatever you want first, okay? So let's just do our vertex first. We know that this right here is A, B, and C, right? You should know that. So if we're going to do our vertex, we're going to do negative B. Oh, B's already negative, so we know it's a positive B over 2A is 2. So this is 9 over 4. That is your x-coordinate. Now we're going to take that 9 over 4 and we're going to plug it into the equation to get our y-coordinate. So we'll do 2 times 9 over 4 squared minus 9 times 9 over 4 plus 4. So all I'm doing is just plugging it back in. I got my calculator over here. You can't see it. It's kind of off screen. But I'm just plugging in, having a great time. Okay, it's not that big of a deal. And it is negative 6.125. So if you don't want to keep 9/4 as a fraction, or if you want to turn this into a fraction, remember you just hit math, frac. And that turns it into a negative 49 over 8. So you decide, okay? I'm okay with the decimal or the fraction. So 9 over 4 is 2.25. And then we have our negative 6.125. So there's our vertex. Right there. Got him. I went ahead and wrote it down here. You see me writing it down there? Yep. Okay, now let's do the axis of symmetry. So the axis of symmetry is the x-coordinate. So what would it be? Yeah, 9 over 4. But we always say x equals 9 over 4, or you can say 2.25. It's the same thing. Okay, now let's do the, what do you call it, x-intercepts first. So let's try to factor this. Now, this is a bump it up one. So 2 times 4 is 8, and we have negative 9. So it's probably going to be 8 and 1. Probably both going to be negative, right? Okay, so let's do our little guys. X minus 8, x minus 1. But again, this is a bump it up. So we have to take the a, and remember we divide both guys by the a. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. 1 can't divide by 2, so that's when you bump it up. So you have 2x minus 1. Now remember, to get the answers, you set each of these parentheses equal to 0. So x minus 4 equals 0. 2x minus 1 equals 0. Well, this one's easy. Plus 4 is 4. This one, let's try to use our brain. We're going to plus 1 and divide by 2. So 1/2. Those are your x-intercepts. So x-intercept is when x equals 4 and x equals 1/2. Now, see how I'm filling in everything down here? The y-intercept is easy, you guys. I mean, we could plug in a 0 for x if we want, or we can just know that this last, the constant, see this 4, that's your y-intercept. Okay, your constant is your y-intercept. So down here, I'm going to come down here, y equals 4. So look, I've got everything filled out. So let's go ahead and graph it, and then we can decide if it's a max or a min. Okay, so my vertex is at over 2 and a little bit, down 6 and a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and a little bit. Okay, so my y is 4. My x is at 1, 2, 3, 4 and a half. See, I'm just getting all my dots in. That's all I'm doing. So I got all my dots in. Now all I want to do is kind of connect them. So is this a max or a min? So look up here if you can't remember. Look up there in your vocab. Yep, it is a min. And a min at what? Y equals, remember it's always your lowest y coordinate. And that is going to be negative 6.125. So again, it is really easy, but the thing is, guys, if you didn't understand what we did previous to this lesson, it might suck for you, okay? Because we're factoring, we're doing the same thing, but again, so you got to kind of remember what we already did. All right, let's go over here and do one more. Let's do your vertex 4 first. So negative b, so negative 4, because remember this is a, b, and c. So negative 4 over 2a. Now a is negative 1, so make sure you watch out for that. So we actually have negative 4 divided by negative 2, which is just 2. Okay, now I am going to plug in that 2 to the equation so that I can get my y. So again, I've got my calculator over here on the side. Just plugging it in, that's all I'm doing. And we get negative 3. So there's your vertex right here. So again, down here on the line, my vertex is 2, negative 3. Your y-intercept is easy. Remember, it is the constant, so negative 7. Y equals negative 7. Can't really do the x-intercept yet, but I can do my axis of symmetry, because remember, your axis of symmetry is your x-coordinate. So right there at 2. So x equals 2. Max or min, we're going to wait for. So let's factor again. Actually, no. Let's do quadratic formula. We factored here. I'm going to do quadratic formula. So let's do it. Negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my calculator and put what is under the radical in the calculator. Don't put your radical. Just put all these numbers that's underneath. So I've got 4 squared minus 4 times negative 1 times negative 7. And I get negative 12. All right, interesting. There's a negative under the radical. What does that mean when we have the negative under the radical? That means that it is imaginary. So when it is imaginary, is it going to touch the x-axis? No, it's not. Okay, so there actually are no x-intercepts. Okay, because it's not going to touch it. So let's get our points that we do have. We're over 2, negative 3, 1, 2, 3. Our y-intercept is negative 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We do have, let's see, what else do I got? I really don't have anything else, okay? That's all I got is just those 2 dots. But listen, it's not going to touch the x-axis. So when you draw your parabola, you know it's going down because it's not going to touch that x-axis because we don't have any x-intercepts because they're imaginary. Okay, so is this a max or a min? It is a max. Okay, again, if you need to look up here to our cheat sheet, you can look. And remember, it is at, and it's always the y coordinate, negative 3. Probably, I need to put y equals negative 3 on there. All right, pretty easy, right? So again, you have to be able to factor or quadratic formula. All right, try those practice problems. Ask me questions if you need.